Since 1992, only 6 clubs have been able to call themselves champions of the Premier League. But which team stands out as the very best in the modern era? A distinguished panel has been assembled here in central London and will attempt to decide who we think deserves to be crowned the greatest Premier League team we've seen so far. What a group I have to help us decide the greatest Premier League side of all time. We have Ian Wright, 1 Premier League title with Arsenal. Chris Sutton, 1 Premier League title with Blackburn Rovers. Wes Brown, 5 Premier League titles with Manchester United.
Sorry,
and Miguel Delaney, no Premier League titles, but according to The Independent, of which you are chief football writer, you are award-winning. So you definitely fit comfortably in this panel. And we're going to start up north, guys, with the side who've won more Premier League titles than anybody else. And they take up 3 spots in our top 8. So can we start with the Manchester United double winning side of 93-94?
When I look back at Man United, I judge it on that Man United. When the way that team was so good, so dominant, and the standards they set, they were amazing to play against.
Yeah. Tough, Chris.
If you went to Old Trafford, you were lucky to get the result, and if you did get the result, you'd get battered by United. Relentless pressure. I think they had the best goalkeeper in the Premier League of all time, Peter Schmeichel. I know you weren't overly friendly with him.
Yes, no, we're very close.
He was unorthodox, and then Steve Bruce Pallister rocks at the back.
And as a youngster, you must have looked at that defence coming up through the Manchester United.
Yeah, well, this is where I really, you're really starting to watch football. I was 13 at the time. I used to love Pallister. He was dangly, he was quick, he'd always seem to win the ball, his legs were so long.
He always looked so tired.
Yeah, he did, but he carried on.
And there were, I think I'm right in saying, Miguel, you will correct me, I'm sure, that only the 4th team that century to do the double.
Yeah.
This is before huge squads of 40-plus players.
It kind of changed the context in that way, especially because, so many of the same players did double again 2 years later. But I think they're the only Premier League champions as well to have been top from the first day to the last day, and to be never taken off. The only thing I think when looking at that team, especially in relation to the other 2 United teams, is that how much does the lack of European progress stand against them? Because I know, although this is about the Premier League, I think it's a debate that we're going to keep coming back to in this. You can't kind of divorce it from the effect a European season has. So for teams to go further on all fronts, maybe stands
it's gone early with the European.
They weren't concentrating on Europe at that stage. I think they were concentrating on domestic dominance. It was back-to-back.
But is that not a quality in itself, though? If you can actually concentrate across more fronts and yet still maintain the same level?
I think, personally, coming from the club at a young age, that was a season where it changed everything. It became, this winning mentality. And I think, at the time, Europe, that's the next step. But this team has been one of the best teams for Man United that they've ever had.
It just felt like there was a much greater muscularity and confidence about United, as opposed to signing a Keane, bringing that on as well.
Yes, Keane and Ince. That, for me, as a midfield pairing, it's just awesome, isn't it?
OK, you're talking about midfields. How about this for an impressive midfield? The treble-winning side of 99, Giggs, Beckham, Scholes, Keane. I mean, that is, and the players that came into the picture as well, a team that won on 3 fronts, the first time ever to do that. That is a team that is measured against the very best in Europe, which might be one of your points, and also the best in the Premier League. A team that had resilience, Wes Brown.
Yeah, well, this was my first year in the full squad when this all happened.
Welcome.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, to watch them not even playing a game, to train with them every day, the concentration that went into the training sessions, it was so quick. There was no messing about.
It was probably intense as well.
Honestly, you couldn't get the ball off Scholes for one, but then Keno will also be taking people out, No, but he trained like it was a game, and he'd make sure everyone else did the same. Just the overall mentality of what the gaffer wanted from us that year, knowing the players that we had, Andy Cole, Dwight York. I mean, from the beginning, it was like, it just hit off.
The best partnership for you, Premier League?
Tell you what, I think that they could go down as one of the best partnerships because they were both up there. I'm not talking about somebody.
And you and Bergkamp?
Why do you have to go?
Yeah, I mean, we're having a debate within a debate here.
Yeah, but he's turning it personal. I'm not going to go down there. I'm just talking about. They could probably go down as easily two of the best in.
So resilient as well. Arsenal in I think it was the FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah, well,
Bayern Munich in the Champions League. I mean, they
dug
didn't
in.
know they were beaten. Did they?
That's the thing about that title. I think whatever about being the best side, that's probably the most memorable title victory ever because it goes to the wire for a start and it's decided in the second half. Andy Cole's goal, but also the amount of comebacks across all competitions. You probably can't win a title as dramatically as that, bar the City winner in 2012. But in terms of the whole run-in, I mean.
It's true. When you saw the final, the Bayern Munich final, man, it got hammered.
We got battered in that game. And then honestly, when we get a corner, it was the weirdest feeling ever. It's like, this is going in.
Of course it is.
They're a Premier League side, I think the ones in the history of the Premier League who had the most belief. Like you said, you just expected it. You knew it was coming.
It was so hard though, even when they were playing badly and it weren't going for them, they weren't ever beaten. You look at what they done in '99. It'd be very, very difficult to say there's another team that's going to come in that can match this team in respect of resilience as well as quality.
Well, let's see whether or not Wes has got different ideas about the 2007-8 side. You played 50 times?
Yeah, I didn't get injured that year.
50 times.
No, I mean, for me, it was fantastic. Obviously, most of the time I was playing right back. Gary Neville was injured from the beginning. And I mean, I remember walking out for games and we'd be like, right, nothing's going past us today. But you believe it. Do you know what I mean?
Vidic and Ferdinand.
That's what I mean. Vidic, he headed every single, no matter what was in the air. Best header I've seen.
Yeah.
He'd head everything away. Rio's nice and calm. Pat would be doing his thing. I'd be trying to kick someone.
But you know, when you looked at the team though, it's the only back two I've seen, Chris, where United can, like, you could go forward if you want, everyone could go. You can leave them 2-on-2. You could leave them 2-on-2.
I mean, also up front, you haven't got anybody actually up front, have you? Because you've got this three that I mean, it's how exciting. You now think back to Rooney and Tevez and Ronaldo. You know,
unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember teams, even when we was in the tunnel, saying, "Just keep it down today, lads." No, because it was frank. It was all at the peak. You know what I mean? Ronaldo, Rooney, just absolutely tearing people apart. We've had games where we've absolutely had a torrid, and Ronaldo will produce a worlder. You know, we've got that sort of special player.
There was magic in the team.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Some teams have a special player, and he was that year. And if we did get beat, we wouldn't allow it to happen next game. Everyone would just work extra hard, and you know, we got through it in that sense. But it wasn't as easy as everyone says.
He's making a good case.
He is
for the
this
2007-8.
This is the standard that Man United set. That's why when you see Man United, what they're going through now, you just think to yourself, what's going on?
Okay, well, that's a different show.
Absolutely.
We're going to stick very much to our script today, which is to try and define which was the greatest so far in the Premier League era. And you'd be happy to whoever moving next, righty. So, guys, thanks for the moment, but it's time to head to North London. Got to start with you first, Ian Wright. That team of 97-98, Arsene Wenger's first double, his first Premier League title. It was the beginning of an era for him. But that was a team that had experience, but it had flair, it had passion, it had commitment.
When you look at like the back five with Dave Seaman and Nigel Winterburn, Tony Adams, Martin was in and around it, and Lee Dixon as well. That was what it was built on. Solid, yeah. Then he brought in Patrick and Manu Petit, and then all of a sudden this little guy like Nicholas Anelka came. And it's funny because I was saying to you earlier, when Nicholas came and we started seeing him train at 17, I knew that my time was really coming close. I've never seen anything like it in respect of a player, how good he was.
You weren't boring Arsenal anymore.
Well, you know what I mean? I thought that I kind of put an end to that, Chris.
Yeah, no, I meant that.
What about the style of play as well and how that was evolving? And that side became quite an attractive side to watch, didn't it?
Well, in training, it was all about playing Dennis Bergkamp. What can you say? You know what I mean? It was made for Dennis the way we played.
You could beat teams anyhow, couldn't you? You could
Yeah.
rough them up, you could beat them up, and then you had the guile and the flair and the pace and,
It was
the
brilliant
goal
because
scorer.
we like that.
It's that combination of that English defensive core, or that which one of the best defenses you've ever seen.
That's the best defence.
Would you say so? Yeah. Better than Chelsea 04-05?
Absolutely.
Or United 08?
Yeah.
But I suppose on top of that as well, you had
Read stats.
on top of that, you had this kind of modern athleticism and this kind of style, I suppose, that the Premier League hadn't seen at that point. And the one thing I remember about that season was Arsenal just went into overdrive. And I remember there were so many games where Arsenal basically, particularly Blackburn away, I think it was away, where the game was done within 20 minutes. And that was the case almost right through March and April.
In the end, it was 78 points. Man United was 77. It was very close, but we felt strong. We felt like we could beat. Remember when you were saying about, looking at a team, knowing that we're going to.
Did you know you'd win it?
No, because we were dealing with United.
What was the perception of this team?
Big, strong, hard to score against, don't give anything away.
It's one of the first times that I was able to go in and play against the United side where you felt like we're with you here, we're balanced here. And if we saw any weakness, you could look around, you could see Bergkamp. You know what I mean? Even Platty come up with some great goals. You know what I mean? Patrick Vieira, he was able to go and duke it out with Roy Keane. You can see that. And so we knew that if there was anything going wrong, we could take advantage. And this is what this team was about. We were strong enough to do that and good enough.
Well, let's move on to the Invincibles, the 03-04 Arsenal side, who remain still the only unbeaten side in a Premier League season.
I'm going to be controversial here, though. That team's whole aura it's built on domestic invincibility. And yet, in the biggest game of the season, and the one they really wanted, I think, even beyond the kind of unbeaten season, Champions League game,
Chelsea.
They lose. Yeah,
that's unfair. That is unfair.
When it comes
They're
to
the Invincibles. You can't take that away from them because they lose in a cup.
Well, it's invincibility. It's not invincibility.
Invincibles. It's an unbelievable
But then they're running
achievement.
side then.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, if it was a nice white sheet, that would be the little black spot on it. Simply
Yeah, but that's because you didn't play in that team.
But probably, we probably would have beaten Chelsea. But no. The thing about it is that when you look back at that team, you get games where teams would go and really put them under pressure for a bit, and then they'd get through it, and then within 10 minutes, it's 4.
To play against?
It's horrible. When we're about to play Arsenal, you're like, this is the game. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the toughest game.
That 04 team didn't actually beat yours. 2 draws in the league and a defeat in the cup.
My point is, though, they beat everyone else.
What was Thierry Henry like to play against?
He was offside when he scored again. No, I mean, he was brilliant. He was just a threat. He was always a threat. You always have to be on your toes. Yeah. And once he was behind you, there was I don't think anyone would probably get back to him.
What I'm not getting here is a sense that the idea that you can be invincible over a season is actually that impressive. None of you seem to be making a case for them.
I think City's 100 points is more impressive because they're going for a win. It's based on trying to win every game and maximise it. Whereas
was there a lot of draws in the Invincible season?
12 was it, I think?
I think it was.
Which is a lot, to be fair.
I think that in respects of being invincible for the whole season,
It's an unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
I'm not saying it's.
No, you're not saying it's not unbelievable. But I just think that you have to have a certain mentality to go into games to not lose them. Yeah. And the pressure that comes with that. And I think that they've got to get credit for that because they did do it.
But they were invincible playing attractive football.
Okay, so Sutton is impressed with the invincibility, clearly, and Wrighty wishes you had been part of that side.
It would have been great. It would have been amazing. We would have won more.
Just when I thought there was a moment of humility emerging there. So we're going to park Arsenal for the moment. Let's move from North London to West London. It's time for Chelsea. Right, Chelsea. We're going to do the Chelsea side from 04-05, the first Chelsea side to win a Premier League title, to win a title in 50 years, and of course it was the start of Jose Mourinho being the special one.
I'm not one of the bottle. I think I'm a special one.
Well, he was the special one. The Portuguese Pied Piper came in, brilliant transfer window. Carvalho, Ferreira coming in, Robin, Drogba, is unplayable that season, supremely organised, and they had that threat, didn't they, going forward?
You didn't mention
the
Frank
powerhouse. Well, absolutely, I was coming to him, Gabby. and Makelele as well, that insurance policy in midfield.
What sticks out for me, the 2 players, was Ian Robin and Damien Duff that season. Them 2, as the wingers, coming in, they were absolutely magnificent that season. They were one of those teams, again, that could probably... They could deal with any kind of confrontation. They were like, for me, they were brilliant.
But they were almost the opposite of Manchester United 99, because 99 was basically defined by so much chaos and entertainment in games, whereas this Chelsea were so good in a different way because they just shut so many games. That's one thing I remember. They go 1 or 2-0 ahead, and that was it. Mourinho would declare and I mean to be horrendous to play against. The one thing I'd say though, their big claim. Here we go. Their big claim was to have the points record. And so that's been slightly taken back because City have taken it off them, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's always a negative.
Well, if it's a debate, there's qualifications if there's a debate.
I threw another negative in. It was the start of the Abramovich money, obviously, wasn't it? And so, you know, there's accusations that this was a title that was very much bought.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the way it's gone. That's the way football has gone now, and we all know that. Because it was us against Arsenal, and all of a sudden this Chelsea team comes along, and all of a sudden, these are good, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the Arsenal's now sort of, that's not our biggest game in London anymore. It's now become Chelsea. They've gone all out, and it's worked.
And the thing is as well, Gabby, you know, people talk about the Abramovich money, but that still doesn't help you in respects of the pressure that the player himself has to deal with, in respects of not winning something for 50 years. And all that's happened is that the money has actually put even more pressure on that team to perform because of the amount of money that's been spent on them. And for them to do it, in the end, was brilliant.
I'm going to give you another Chelsea team to consider now, and that is the Ancelotti team of 9-10. Along the spine of the team still there, weren't they? But just maybe a bit more attack-minded.
But then, as well, and then you've got Drogba, who's now fully fledged.
That was his best season.
Unbelievable player. You know,
He used to like playing against Arsenal, didn't he?
He scored. He never didn't score against us. I knew that we were 1-0 down if Drogba was in the team.
Chris is going to hate this, but they got in terms of the Drogba thing though, they got slightly lucky because just before they played Manchester United in the game that really won the title, Rooney got injured when he was in the form of his career. And I suppose, you know, every championship...
There was a caveat, isn't there?
This is what separates the sides.
No, but with that team, they were just very functional, very strong.
Am I getting the sense that although they were defensively very tight and obviously played with a certain kind of flair, that perhaps what the achievements of Mourinho's first season supersede this side?
They were very good and they're very experienced, but it's not like the 2004-05 team what just blast out at you because they were so good and so special, or the other teams that we've mentioned. That's why it doesn't make me feel, this team's got to be a monster.
Doesn't give you the kind of
not the same
tingle.
not the same as 2004.
They're another side that City have taken one of their records. They were top scorers. They were top scorers, and now City are.
The spine of that team and the success they had, you know, are we taking them for granted a little bit? Because they scored more goals than the Mourinho team. They were, you know, arguably better.
That's all I'm saying.
Mourinho shut up shop, didn't he? That was his style.
Exactly. And but I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, I look at them and it's not a team that made me think that was an unbelievable Chelsea team to be one of the best in the history of the Premier League. I think the 2004-05 team was just better.
I think that's enough of Chelsea for the moment. Let's head back to Manchester, but it's City this time. So, bringing us right up to date, the City side of last season, Pep Guardiola's record breakers, most points in a Premier League season, most consecutive wins. I mean, you could go on and on with the list of records that they've broken. Are records important, Chris Sutton, when analysing a team?
Well, they would be to me. I don't know, with Miguel, he'll probably be able to criticise some of the records that Manchester City broke. I mean, phenomenal season. I actually thought the key to the season was the signing of Edison. The goalkeeper, that was their Achilles heel. You know, Bravo. He was an issue. Every time somebody shot, they scored the previous season. And they started to look solid at the back and could see games through. But they weren't, to be slightly critical here, they weren't really tested. They blew everybody away. What
is so impressive about them for me is we're in a time in the Premier League where teams say, well, we can't attack you, so we're just going to stay here. So
but the team that did attack them beat them, didn't they?
Yeah, but people weren't brave enough.
And there's a bit of a similar vibe there to the Invincibles. That in the biggest game of the season, they actually lost to a team from not too far away.
Yeah, with Liverpool.
Are they the most stylish team which have won the Premier League? In terms of brand of football?
I would say definitely.
I think they're, yeah.
And the most different as well. They could be. Sophisticated, just everything about
some of the stuff.
They're just all intelligent, aren't they? The way all the players are intelligent, the way they pass, little passes, moves.
We were just doing records and we were doing this through a computer. The computer would say yes, wouldn't it? But yes. It's not about that, because we're talking about context, and we've talked about putting teams in a European context alongside, whether that's important, and obviously this side couldn't produce the goods in Europe.
It's easier to, I suppose, chase the records if suddenly in the last 2 months, you're not also thinking about a European run.
Exactly.
So suddenly this is all you've got to aim for. I mean, because suddenly your resources aren't as stretched, so you don't have to kind of, I suppose, rotate the team as much. So that's why I still think an actual Champions League win with a league stands above.
Because you're juggling so much more.
But the mentality to keep going when they weren't really under pressure and they never switched off.
But then the 100 points became a pressure thing for them because they realised. I think Guardiola said this.
It's not the same though, is it?
No, but I think Guardiola did say this, that it became a kind of a motivational factor. Or some of the players talked about it as well, that they realised to properly commemorate the season, they had to do something special.
To see the celebrations at Southampton that day, you'd have thought that they needed to win that game to win the league.
You can't deny the facts, but I wonder if there's something that's missing from that win last season is that nobody pushed them, and that all the great Premier League champions need to have had a protagonist. You've talked about those great battles.
You want to be pushed by getting 100 points. You want to be pushed by.
They can't help that though.
Yeah, of course they can't help it. But
what's in front of them. They've broken all the records, and we're still moaning.
Yeah, but on the outside looking in, you want to see what it's like when it's going to the wire with another team.
It's the questions left there. How they'd cope with a challenger at their level.
That's all it is.
Because so many champions are defined that way by who actually they're up against.
That's what it is for me.
I think we also need to have an honourable mention for Blackburn Rovers and, of course, Leicester, the other two sides.
Shame they weren't involved. Really. Unfashionable back then.
No, but I think that Leicester's achievement is the greatest in the Premier League. It's the greatest ever in the Premier League.
Hang on a minute. The greatest ever Premier League team?
I think that we're talking about greatest ever Premier League team. I'm talking about the greatest ever Premier League achievement. Nothing is going to beat what Leicester done. I don't care what anyone says.
We've got a top 8. You've got a team to choose. It's decision time. Write down the name of the team on this card and keep it to yourself, and I will ask you to reveal it in a moment. Ready, guys? So, Wes, reveal yours first, please. United 99. Miguel.
9 years later.
I'll take that one.
Yeah. 50 appearances in that one. Chris Sutton.
Go on, Arsene.
2 for United 99. What is Ian Wright gonna? United 99 with 2 Arsenals crossed out. So, I guess from this discussion, United 99 are the clear winners. Obviously, they didn't impress you enough, though. It was
in a weird way. I just thought I'd fancy this side to win games more. 'Cause basically, the weaknesses of that 99 side made them great.
No, but these could dig deeper.
Yeah, but they had to dig deeper because they weren't quite as polished a team.
Were you ever in doubt? Did you ever want to self-promote and go for the
No, I mean,
2008 side?
to be involved in both is a pleasure in itself, but what I learned from that team took me on for many years.
And Righty, I know that you perhaps it's slightly facetious crossing out of Arsenal, but did you change your mind at all throughout the last half?
No, because you know the thing with the Arsenal '98 team, I was just a privilege to be involved in it. It was a privilege to watch the Invincibles and be associated with the club at that time. But I think that when you look at the United team of '99, I think Arsenal pushed them to what they did.
In many ways, it's your win.
Yeah. But the fact is, I just think that as a professional, it's just magnificent what they went on to do. And that is why they've got to get that.
Chris, did you start this debate with that as your team? Nothing changed?
Nothing has changed. I mean, these were the best side to watch, swashbuckling, edge-of-the-seat stuff. It's where you watch
Personify
football.
the Premier League for you?
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. And I'm not sure that you're all going to not scribble those out and write something else when I turn around. But thank you so much. And listen, you're in Miguel's side.
I'll tell you that.
Nice one, Wes.